Sometimes we kind of like the bad boy. They can be dangerous, but we kind of like them. And Mama wants to tame this handsome beast because isn't that what most women want to do? Hey Glow girls and guys, yes, I got me the infamous bad boy Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture Palette, and I call this my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde palette, a palette with personality issues. And there's a lot of urban legends going around with this palette, and I'm going to tell you whether they're true or not. Is it true that it's like crazy pigmented? Is it true that it kicks up a storm and leaves a trail behind it, a messy trail behind it? Is it true that it oxidates? Is it true that it's hard to blend? I'm gonna let you know because I experienced this palette for myself. I am not very much into first impressions. I like to try things out because sometimes you kind of fall in love at first sight. I'm gonna see whether it's true, whether you can fall in love at first sight, because sometimes you fall in love at first sight and you find out you hate the person. Sometimes you fall in love at the first sight and you love it. Sometimes you're not so fall in love at the first sight, but you test it out, you try it out, and you decide, this is growing on me. Or sometimes, when you love somebody, but there's some things that you don't like, because everybody's got a little Mr. Hyde in them, we're gonna see how bad this Mr. Hyde is. You're gonna get my thoughts on this palette, and we're gonna find out whether this is truly the urban legends are true, or whether it's all been greatly exaggerated. All shall be revealed. Let's get started. I said that this is a bad boy palette, and the reason why is because this ain't no sister palette to the modern renaissance. No, this is a bad boy tomboy to the modern renaissance palette. I kind of think of it as the tall, dark, and handsome. You know you want him, but you know it's dangerous, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde palette. So we're gonna get into crack this baby open and find out what's so great about it. I'm gonna give you the scoop on it. We're gonna find out for ourselves, and I'm gonna give you a little demo on how I did these eyes, and we're gonna get some swatches. So let's get started. The personality of this palette. We're gonna start with the overall color scheme. Now, this is a palette that is dark, grungy, but it's like a fall palette with a little bit of, a little bit of bipolarness, because you got the light colors in here, those yellows and oranges, and then those hits of colors can give you some amazing summer looks. But overall, this is kind of a fall and winter palette, because when you get beyond that, the rest of the colors are very dark. They're deep. They're not mid-tone, they're on the dark side tone, and they're deep, dark, and neutralized. Even this edge that looks like it's yellow is kind of neutralized yellow. It is more like a mustardy, and it kind of starts to get darker and murkier. So this is kind of like a grungy all over palette, and you also got some complementary colors working and jiving with each other here. You've got the dark, deep greens jiving with All-Star, which is like a deep, dark burgundy. Now, these greens are something else. They kind of, when you put them side by side, they kind of pseudo look like each other. This one's more of an olive. I call it like a grayed down olive green. It's very neutralized, so this is the lightest one, and then you get to Untamed, which is kind of untamed. It gets kind of pigmented. There's a little bit more blue in it. When I put this on my eye, it like packs a punch. It is pigmented. It's like, whoa, I don't think you can get any greener than that. And then suddenly, bang, you hit Axis, and Axis just kind of blows it out of the park. It just hits it out of the arena. This thing is like, I think this is the most pigmented teal I've ever seen without it being black. It's amazing. So then you've got that like jiving with the All-Star. So that's one of the complementary hits there. Then you've got Rowdy, which is a deep, dark black and plum. Plum is purple, so that jives with the yellows and the oranges. Then you've got the Party hits of duochrome delights with Cube and Electric. Those are amazing. Electric is even more amazing. Cube looks white in the pan, but it's actually a white base with a pink iridescent flip to it. It's really, really beautiful. And then you've got the Electric, which is like disco ball, lime green, iridescent, pow. It has glitter in it. It shines bright like a diamond. It's on my lid right now. The thing about this, this could have been a very, very dark and dingy palette, and it gives you very dark, smoky looks as a result of the darkness, you know, these deeper colors over on this side. And because it's murky, it's neutralized. These colors are neutralized, they are not bright. So thank goodness, because these colors here, Electric, Cube, and Adorn, bring it out of that and give that oomph, that edge, that twist, that surprise that makes it like a really cool party, edgy, sultry palette that if you didn't have those, it would just be very dark and smoky and dingy. Because it's like edgy, it's grungy, you can go summer, you can go fall, winter, you take it to, it's murky, it's sultry, you can go to amazing romantic evenings out, clubs, bars, biker bars, and festivals, that's what I'm talking about. So this is like the Party palette to the sister, subdued, pretty, romantic palette. Party, pretty. Party, pretty about it. Now the thing is with Cube is a little, it's not very pigmented. Of all the colors in here, this is not very pigmented. Best to use a sponge applicator. I use my sponge applicator to get this to work. Also Electric, if you use your finger, you can hard pan it very easily. So Electric is one, use a sponge applicator. This thing blows it out of the park, because I have some other colors that are dupes to this, and I'm going to do a dupe of this palette. So get ready. I'm going to be filming it later on, so look for that. But the dupe for this I have is Karma by Makeup Geek. I always thought it was like very bright and pigmented and like really cool, lime green, like duochrome shine, but putting it next to this, because I did one eye with Karma, the other eye with Electric. Listen, Karma became the poor third cousin once removed. It became dark and dingy world. So this one was shining like a diamond. So I bought this palette because I kind of like this, but I really love these hits. And Adorn is gorgeous. It's pigmented. It's like a light coppery, orangey, sunsetty color. But I gotta be honest with you, I was not quite sure whether I was gonna get it, because it's kind of out of my comfort zone. When I'm going with colors, even with these deeper, darker colors, I tend to like them to still have some color to it, like saturation to it. Now, the thing is with this palette is that everybody on YouTube, everybody that is like reviewing it, you're seeing these colors brighter in their videos and when they're taking pictures, because they are saturating this thing like a mofo, okay? So you're seeing more brilliant color in it than that's really there. For instance, All-Star is this beautiful, deep, almost blackened burgundy. It has a red under color to it. But when you swatch it, it is kind of brown. It's very pigmented, but it's rather brown. You see what I mean? So when it gets on my eye, it gets darker. It becomes more brown. You don't hardly see the burgundy in it. And all those wonderful YouTube videos are showing more burgundy than there really is in there. What you see is not what you get on the YouTube videos, okay? I'm just telling you right now. So what I would rather is that it be more like drift. You see how that shows better color to it? I know they wanted it more grungy, but I still would have wanted some color to it. Now I know it's got a shine, but we're just talking about the color. But you see there's more, you can see the color more in that. Now I know that Anastasia likes their grungier looks and everything, but I still feel that they could take a little bit of the brown out of it so that it kind of shows up on deeper skin tones, not so browny. And that's what happens with these darker, murky colors. They work well on light skin tones, but on darker skin tones, they all start to kind of look a little muddy and same. So that's why I like Juvia's place, because even when they go dark, you can still see the color. I'm gonna get into the deets quickly because I want to tell you a little bit about because it's going to get into the formulation, and then we're going to get into why this baby is a little bit Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, the deets are, it's $42 US and $55 Canadian, and you get 0.7 grams of product per pan, which is not very much when you consider that a normal pan like Sephora Pro's editorial palette that just came out, and I have, it has 1.2 grams of product, and Too Faced Sweet Peach palette has 0.95 grams of product. And if you think of singles, they're generally like ColourPop singles are 1.5, Anastasia Beverly Hills singles are 1.7, Makeup Geek singles are 1.8. Now granted, usually in pans they're not going to be as much as that, except for Natasha Denona, but still you kind of want it in the range of like 1 grams to 1.3 grams, and this is only 0.7 grams. Now, let me tell you something. That makes for a very expensive palette on the whole. Granted, yes, you're only putting out $42, but when you think of it all together, this palette per gram is very expensive. And I can tell you, it's even sit down, make sure you're sitting down, hold your seat, because I'm just gonna break a myth here for you. This palette is actually more expensive than Natasha Denona's 28 pan palette. Yes, because when you break it down, the price per gram of this is $4.29, which is a lot. And when you compare it to Natasha Denona's 28 pan palettes, Natasha's are only $3.41 per gram. $4.29, $3.41 per gram. So this is a very, very expensive palette. Compare it even further, Too Faced Sweet Peach palette is $2.87 per gram, and Juvia's Place palettes are $1.65 per gram. So that's another reason why I love Juvia's Place. So this is very, very expensive. The other thing is that it's a very short shelf life for this. This is only 6 months upon opening, which is not a lot. So given that we're going through a lot of palettes, you know, all of us, let's face it, we all have a lot of makeup these days. So I don't think we're always using the same palette over and over again. So, but I still keep mine for longer, and as long as it don't smell or give me pink eye, I'm okay. So I don't care. Now the other D is the formulation. This is another reason why this is a bad boy to the Modern Renaissance palette. And the reason is the formulation has completely changed. And it would have been nice if Norvina Anastasia Beverly Hills let us know beforehand, but let me give you a breakdown here. The formulation on this is only 7 ingredients, then you add on the pigments. The formulation of Modern Renaissance is 19 ingredients. So 19, 7. So they've cut out quite a lot of ingredients in this, and on top of that, they exchanged mica. So in the Modern Renaissance, it has mica in. In this palette, they put talc. Now, with the hits of color, Electric Cube, Electric Adorn, there is mica in that. But all the rest, all the mattes, it's all talc instead of, there's no mica in, it's now talc. Now, I am wondering whether it could be, because I heard somebody had commented that talc absorbs moisture, and this one only has talc. There's not even, they did add, there is some silica. Now I don't know whether that could be a little replacement to the mica, I'm not sure, but in any case, talc absorbs moisture. That's one of the properties of talc, and our skin has moisture in it, and especially if it's oily. So I'm wondering whether that might be, and the fact that there's so little ingredients in this, that it might be what's causing the blend out effect. And also I'm wondering whether that could be the problem with the oxidation issues when using some of these mattes, particularly matte like Edge. I don't know whether you might notice, but I did put Edge on my upper crease and bordering the green, and it starts off as yellow and it starts to go deeper and darker in color. So by the end of this video, it might be even darker than when I started. This palette is pigmented. It packs a punch. It really is pigmented. I believe they reduce the ingredients in order to give us more punch for our dollars in pigment. I really believe that they had good intentions by this palette. However, I think they should have tested it a bit more. They should have maybe forewarned us, you know, awareness campaigns and marketing. So I don't think it was done in some sort of conspiracy way. I think they were really trying to give us more for us, and I thought that was good, but I think they handled it not as well as they could have. Now we're gonna go into the Mr. Hyde, the dark, dangerous Mr. Hyde and difficult Mr. Hyde of this palette. The kick up is real, especially with like say rowdy and even like the greens, they kick up a lot. And listen, when everybody says tap your brush, just tap your brush, don't swirl, don't dig, you don't need to do any of that. I am even telling you, don't even tap. Touch your brush. Just touch your brush. You don't linger too much. Just linger a little bit. Pick it up, tap it off, and you're fine. Bob's your uncle. And the brush that they give you in the palette, the shader end, and this is great because it's a little puffier than a flat shader, so you can use it as a shader and you can use it as like more deeper into the crease to get into there to deepen up the crease. So this is perfect. I love this end. This end, it was not made for this palette. Just saying, it's too stiff, it's too hard. Even the ends are a little bit too, almost a little bit blunt. They're not, but they almost feel a little bit more blunt. So this is too heavy for this palette. Don't use it. Too bad they didn't go softer, knowing that they were making a very kick-uppy pigmented palette. And the thing is, it is more kick-uppy than Modern Renaissance. And as far as I'm concerned, Modern Renaissance is the most kick-uppy palette I've ever had. Not even Sephora Editorial Pro is as kick-uppy as Modern Renaissance. It's just underneath it, but Modern Renaissance is it. This one definitely goes slightly over, or just a little bit more than slightly over with some of the pans. And with that, it becomes a bit of, it can get to you. You know, you can work with it if you are somebody that has a light hand and knows how to control their hand properly. You can work with this, but it can be quite messy. It drops, the powder drops. You can pick up some of the powder and use it on your eye, but you're still going to get a lot of kind of a bit of a mess on your palette. So if you don't like that, forget about it. It's so pigmented that these greens can get all over your face. Those are the colors that especially Axis and Untamed, these get all over your face. They bleed everywhere. They'll even bleed up into your other colors if not careful and oxidize them. So make sure if you're going to be doing any of these greens, do your eyes first because it will get all over the place. Now the blending issues. This is not a blending queen palette. You blenders out there that are like blending queens, you want to blow out your eyeshadow to the smithereens, you can't do it with this. If you try to blend that way, it will blend away. It just blends away. It doesn't stick. It doesn't hold. It will just blend away. So you don't want to be doing that. You want to go down with a light hand, start blending. If you're trying to blend two colors together, the edges, just go very softly and just don't keep on going. Just do 1, 2, 3, boom. Leave it alone. It's done. You don't need to go anymore. Tap some of it when you're doing your lid colors. Tap the color on, blend slightly, but you don't need to blend anymore, otherwise you're going to blend it. So let me just tell you how pigmented Axis is. I did a comparison because I like to compare colors. The dupe to this is Taboo. Now, Taboo is like the exact color of this, and I was actually using Taboo and comparing it with Sephora Pro Editorial Palette Addy in it because they look exactly the same. They're deep, dark, plum color. So I put Addy, the Sephora Pro Editorial, on the outer corner of this, and I used Makeup Geek's Taboo on this side. And when I did it, Makeup Geeks was like powerfully pigmented. I actually had to put black onto Addy to get it to that depth of the tone of color. Even though it's a beautiful deep plum, it just wasn't dark and rich enough. Taboo hit it out of the park. Then I did my eye with Rowdy on the outer corner. Then I compared it to Taboo, Makeup Geek's Taboo on this. Now, I thought Taboo was super pigmented because I had just compared it the other day with Addy in the Sephora Pro Editorial, and it blew Addy out of the park. Well, listen, Rowdy blew Taboo out of the park when Taboo had just blew Addy out of the park. So that's just to tell you how I didn't think Taboo could get any more pigmented. Well, Rowdy blew that one out of the park. So these are super pigmented, but they don't really blend well. You cannot be a blending queen with this palette. Then you've got the dark, deep Mr. Hyde dangerous oxidation. Now, this is the thing, there is some oxidation of this palette. New Wave oxidizes a little bit on my eyes. It goes a little bit deeper, darker, a little bit more mustardy sometimes. Edge is definitely oxidizes on my eyes, for real. And it looks like this lighter, like a brighter mustardy color in the pan, but it does not do that. It starts off when you first put it on, it looks like that, and then it suddenly starts to go dankier, darker, more mustardy, and like a little brown. So it starts, and the thing is, the weird part is that it doesn't stop. So you think, okay, yeah, okay, it's gotten a little mustardy, a little brown, you go away, you did your eye, you go away, you come back, and it's darker still. Yeah, like 20 minutes later you come back, it's darker still. So that's a weird thing about this one. It really does do that a lot, and New Wave does that a little bit. So some of these colors kind of darken, they settle and they darken on your eyes a bit. And then what I had done the other day is I had put Edge, I was doing a kind of a lighter look, so I was putting the Edge in and then I was putting a little bit of Untamed underneath it, but I was going to go lighter and brighter with Adorn, and not do this. But what happened is that started to darken on my eye, which I didn't need, and it was starting to turn kind of a really browny mustard. And then when I put the Edge, not the Edge, Destiny, the lightest olive color, it started to look good, but where they hit each other, I don't know what the frick happened, but it started to darken. The edge, the line started to darken, and for some reason I think particles of the green get into the Edge color, and when I came back half an hour later, that thing was so dark it was almost like a light version of Fudge. And have you noticed I never even touched Fudge? I never touched Fudge, I never touched Mercury, because you know guys, I don't like browns, and Mercury, this one is a funny color. I don't particularly like it because I think it should have been more like Buonfresco in the Modern Renaissance palette, which Buonfresco is a little bit more of a little purple. Of course, they wanted to go more edgy. There is a teeny little bit of purple in it, but it reads more of gray color. And I personally liked it to be more purple. And so I don't use this because I think if it had been a little bit more lavender, it would have worked really well with the wine color as a beautiful transition color. It would have really worked well with Rowdy, and it would have like bomb with the green. So I don't like it because it just grays down everything. I just don't touch it. So what I do is I use either Buonfresco from this palette, or I'll use even Fairy Tale from Make It Geek to get me that look, because Mercury ain't doing it for me. So this is like the dark, there is a dark shadow of oxidation. Mr. Hyde does show itself up like a dark shadow looming over the colors. And the thing is, Edge and the greens are not complementary colors. They're not opposite of the color wheel. So it shouldn't happen with them, but it does. When you bound them, they can get really dark and dingy, and you might even see that on my eyes now because I've got Edge on the edge, and it goes dark and dingy. And these are harmonious colors. They're more side by side on the color wheel. They're not opposite, so you wouldn't think it should do it with that, and it does. So there's something odd about this, and I consider the oxidation or the talc, the serum that the sweet Dr. Jekyll would take to turn himself into the bad boy, the shadowy, dark, and dingy oxidative Mr. Hyde. I don't know whether the way the formulation is, there is not enough ingredients in, so the pigments and the talc is really reacting on skin that way, or that some people have more moisture or oil in their skin than others, so it reacts more to our skin than some other people, but it definitely is doing that to my skin. I do have oilier lids, but I always put Urban Decay's Eden Primer on my lids, so it shouldn't be a problem. I don't have this oxidative product problem with any other palette. The only one that I've ever had it with actually was the Sephora Pro Editorial. Let me tell you what is on my eyes. So I'll show you a little demo. What is on my eye is Edge on the outer upper lid. I have a lot of lid space. Then I put Destiny into my crease just below, and then just below Edge. And then I put Untamed below that, deeper in my crease. And then I put Axis right on my lid, blended it out a bit, but packed it on my lid and blended it, and it kind of all fused together because these colors kind of gradate very well with each other. They're a little bit too close in color. And then the piece de resistance, I topped up my lid with Electric for the mermaid factor. So overall, this palette does have some personality issues. It's kind of the troublesome brother, the bad boy brother, the Dr. and Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality issues of the sweet and romantic modern Renaissance. Trouble, biker boy, sweet, everyday modern Renaissance. It is not a user-friendly palette. If you can handle the crazy pigmentation, if you can handle the crazy kick up, if you can handle some of the oxidative issues, if you can handle just tapping, not even tapping, but just touching your brush into this palette, then this is a great palette. It's a beautiful palette. It's almost, I will say, original, because it's not completely original, because Jeffree Star's Androgyny palette was the first to come out with this bit of colorway. Anastasia Beverly Hills just took it to the next level. You know, they added those beautiful hits of color in there. You know, that's what brands do. You know, everybody feeds off of everybody. We get informed by this. We want to, oh, we like that. We want to add some more into, put a twist on it. That's how trends start. So there's possibly probably a little bit of a trend with this. It's amazing, but it's definitely not user friendly. Sometimes we kind of like the bad boy. They can be dangerous, but we kind of like them. But if you don't like the bad boy, you ain't into no dangerous fellas, no biker dudes, then possibly maybe go with the Jeffree Star Androgyny palette. It's a little bit more tamed. Otherwise, you can make your own custom palette, which is what I did. And of course, you can always wait for Norvina is going to be pressing this again on the second run. But it will not solve the other issues to this palette. Just Remember that. So I hope that helped you with the urban legend, getting my experience with this palette, because it was quite an experience. You're always gonna get an experience with a bad boy, let me just tell you. And you know what? I think it makes a really fun pair with this palette because you got some brighter reds in here, and I love marrying this with the brighter reds. They're the yin and yang, the yin and yang. And Mama wants to tame this handsome beast because isn't that what most women want to do? I'm just saying. So if you enjoyed this crazy review, do give it a like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with all my videos. And just remember, rock your own kind of beauty and keep on going and keep on glowing. I will. And just a little tip on keeping it clean, just take a towel and rub it down like you're shining a shoe. It takes off a lot of the pigment. Let me tell you, I had a lot of pigment on this palette and it took off a lot of it. It's an easy way to get your Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes velvety clean.